Hey guys, I was Big Dumb, and
we just want to preface the podcast with this.
The little switchboard back here, we were filming the 2A Pro course. I want to say 2A Procast. We were filming the 2A Pro course, and I adjusted settings and then forgot to adjust them back.
So for the first small subset of this podcast, you may my audio may be a little wonky.
I'm probably just going to use it for both of us, so that way you're not an odd man out.
Okay, cool. So if the audio is a little wonky, it's because we had the settings wrong. It'll only last for the first, 15, 20 minutes of the podcast,
just about,
something like that.
Yeah.
So bear with us, and then eventually the audio will be crispy and clear. Thank you.
I was a big goof. Sorry. Good cheese.
Holy shit, let's get this party started.
Let's get this fucking
Is this
going.
not one of the crazier weeks that we have had here at Tacticon, getting ready for SHOT Show, trying to do the 2A Pro course, and you trying to do all your film editing and product launches, and the new year is just fucking insane.
I'm pretty sure I pooped myself twice this week.
I really just...
This is an absolute chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all for you.
Sometimes I wish I was just an employee.
You know,
But then I realized that I'd be an employee like you, and I would just stay until fucking 8 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
So my life would not look any
I was about to say, I was like, wait a second. I am employed. Wait.
It works the same. Fun and exciting news today. Welcome, by the way, formal introduction. We are going to have to make this quick because SHOT Show is upon us, and we are down to the wire.
So this might be a little bit smaller.
It's going to be smaller. We've never busted our load so fast.
Well,
but we'll make
speak for yourself.
But we'll make it concise.
Well, it'll be a nice. It's gonna be action packed. It's gonna be fun.
It'll be quick. It'll be in and out.
Yeah.
Real in and out.
Great burgers.
Yeah, so
it's gonna be a double.
All right.
First
of all, we got some exciting news.
we've made a bolter.
So everybody keeps asking, when are you gonna make the guns?
Win AR gun. Win Tacticon gun.
Yeah. So this is our first iteration. Again, we actually have working steel and aluminum prototypes done, but we wanted to tweak the design a little bit and just mess with some flair and some contouring lines. And we've came up with this beautiful little contraption. Now it's not. This is 3D printed and disclosure. Disclaimer ATF, this is completely inoperable.
And either way, we have our FFL, so go.
Yeah, it really wouldn't matter anyway.
I can't wait to piss on your booth.
They have a booth.
I'm gonna shit my pants at your booth.
So the ATF has a booth at SHOT Show, and it is conveniently located, I think, like the next row over from ours.
It's a real shame. I want to be belligerent.
Just go take 10 shots and go talk a bunch of shit. All right. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you can hit your zoom on there, and
we'll give them a look-see poo.
Yeah, just the lower and the upper. So she's coming along.
Tell us what you think, what you like, what you don't.
Yeah, if there's something you don't like, let me know.
A slight curve to the left will be there. It's modeled after. Anyways,
it's modeled. Yeah, so there's that. If you're not in the Discord, go get in there because it's naughty. It's just plain naughty.
It's naughty. Do you feel like starting this podcast with how frantic everything is, you kind of feel like you forget how to run a podcast? Because I do.
No, not at all. In fact, I feel like...
You feel like you know more than ever?
Look, 10 minutes ago... how long ago did we start the podcast? 5 minutes ago?
Probably.
Yeah. People are looking at the timestamp on the podcast and it's like 2 minutes, 34 seconds, you fucking idiot.
It's been an hour and a half for me.
But 3 or 4 or 5 minutes ago, when we started the podcast, I wanted to punch a baby. I was you saw me.
Oh yeah.
And let's not forget, I was like, we got a SHOT Show. It's the new year with new product development, and you're getting all your shit done, filming the 2A Pro course. Let's not forget that we're also building a gun shop, which is like taking half of my fucking time because we're consistently over there trying to like tweak this and tweak that and make it. The gun shop is fucking cool, man. It is like it is nothing like. There's nothing like it out there. There's a barber shop inside of it, and it's not. Hey, can I grab that? Hey, can you pull that off the wall for me? We've created this little environment inside of it of which anybody can grab anything they want to and fuck with it.
Yeah.
And there's a TV and a couch where you can play fucking Call of Duty. And
while you're waiting for your fucking drones to get done, you can kick it back and
go in the airsoft range and go blackout and run nods and you know what I mean. It's
fucking blackout.
Yeah, or get a haircut. I mean, yeah,
or drink a beer.
Or drink a beer because there's a whiskey bar there and a coffee bar there. It's pretty fucking cool. It's like the ultimate man cave.
And just a disclaimer, I will kick your ass out if you are making it your home.
Yeah.
Feel free to come, enjoy, hang out. Cool. If you're there too much.
Emphasis on come.
Yeah, come. And come. But I've been a bouncer more than one time in my life.
You're just gonna have you post up in there and yeah, you gotta do the pop out. You gotta get the ILS. ILS, for those of you that don't know, is imaginary lat syndrome.
Or invisible.
Or invisible lat syndrome, and we've all seen it. We've all seen the guys that walk around like this.
It's the best. I'll put a little...
And you're looking for lats, but I'm just not sure why you're walking like that, because the lats aren't there. Yeah, but like I said, a few minutes ago, I wanted to punch baby, and now I am at ease. This is where you want to be. I needed this before I went home, and I mean, I have a baby at home.
Thank goodness.
I know.
You could have punched that little guy.
I'd never punch my own baby.
No.
It would just be another random baby that I would punch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never punch babies. Don't think that I would do that. Jesus.
I would fuck those little guys.
And we wonder, okay, so something real funny about podcasts is every time we podcast, we inevitably, without fail,
every single time,
people unsubscribe from us.
Yeah.
We'll get, you'll put out a badass video of you doing, some super unsafe stuff, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
We'll get to that in a second.
You'll do a badass video. You'll get a ton of subs and a lot of engagement, which is really cool.
It's awesome.
And we appreciate you for that. Yeah. But we do a podcast, and it's the only time we ever get unsubs. And so when Eli named his podcast Unsub Podcast, I get it. I totally understand it, because it is the one time where we just act ourselves and we completely offend the internet. And I can tell people were like, man, I came for Nolan's backflips, but then I listened to you about talking about punching a baby, and I just can't handle it for 35 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, it's just literally meant to. Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't say anything that would be more impactful than punch a baby, because that's really going to tell you. I mean, can you get any worse than that?
Depends on which demographic you're talking to.
Yeah. I have children that would never punch babies. So don't. I just say it.
Yeah, it's
rhetoric.
It's one of the darker jokes.
It's hyperbole.
It's one of those darker jokes that we're still allowed to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's not even an original fucking joke. I stole it from Dane Cook.
Right.
Yeah. Dane Cook said, it's one of those sounds that make you want to punch a baby. And so I was like,
Anthony Jeselnik is carrying that torch.
Wait, who?
Anthony Jeselnik.
Was he pre or post Dane Cook?
Post Dane Cook.
Post Dane. Okay, cool.
He's hilarious.
So he says shit like that.
Very dry, very dark.
Great.
He's like, listen, here, I'm gonna repeat one of his jokes. This is not my joke. Let's be clear.
Okay.
But it is a great
preface it with that. Anybody can clip anything out of the internet and then pretend that you said it. So
we'll go fuck yourself. So anyways, his joke, he goes like this. He goes, I don't understand racism. He goes, I just don't get it.
I've heard this.
How can you hate an entire group of people based off how they all act?
Dude, fuck.
And that's his style of humor. It's fucking hilarious. Anyway.
That's right.
Yeah, we lose subscribers every time.
Every time.
Every single time. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Every time I see that little subscriber tick go down, I'm like, I did something right.
Honestly, if they didn't already have the name Unsub Content
We would
Podcast,
probably change,
I would probably just change the name of the podcast
Yeah.
to Unsub Podcast.
Can we just be Unsub Junior?
Oh, we'll ask him when we get to shop.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, is it?
I'll just text him. I'll just
Can
be
we-
like, hey, yo, Eli, can I be Unsub Junior?
Can we be Unsub Junior, please? we get it.
We get it. We understand. You beautiful bastard. What do you want to dive into first here? There's so many things.
There's so many things to delve into. I don't know. Why don't you? We've had some interesting run-ins with the internet and Reddit lately.
Dude, so many
somebody's-
RSOs.
So many
RSOs.
There's just a lot of RSOs online right now.
Yeah.
And they've been coming out in full force, calling us out. Fortunately, on platforms that we don't even exist on, which is Reddit.
Yeah.
I mean, I go in there under the pseudonym Feed the Trolls, which is literally my handle. And I go in there and I do exactly that. I go in there and I shoot the souls.
Checks out.
Which is fucking fantastic.
It's a good time.
It's
If you want to annoy some people just by existing,
Yeah.
being on Reddit's a good time.
I'll find the R-tactical group and look for the
most unaccepting group on the
most
planet.
They really are. They really are.
God, the worst.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
let's dive in.
what recently happened with R/tactical gear?
It wasn't our tactical gear. It was somebody posted the recent little flippy doodad. I will put it right here. They posted that on Reddit, and just reading the Reddit comments are phenomenal. Even on other platforms, they're pretty great too. But there are a substantial amount of armchair RSOs on Reddit.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite comments that they bring up, I'll post some if you kind of want to read it. But some of the my favorites that they bring up
Yeah.
are talking about how unsafe I am about it. How
Spinning a rifle around at Bullock.
yes,
No rounds.
which
inside of it.
we'll get into it. One of my favorites is when they tell me what I did wrong and how I did the drill unsafely.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't even call it a drill. I did the action. But my favorite comments of all are when they tell me that I'm going to influence others. Now,
Let's get this straight. This could actually be the name of we could change the name of this podcast, and I'm fully on board with
to a Procast to influence others.
No, to influencing.
Influence podcast. Dude.
We could just be influencing it because that's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is we are influencing.
We're influencing.
People are unsubscribing. We are influencing.
I'm into it.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
Well,
Let us
comments.
know. Let us know
Let
down
us
in the
know.
comments if you want us to change it from 2A Procast to
Influencing.
influencing. And then I'll continue 2A Procast. I'll just make it like a 2A Business Procast.
Yeah,
and
we'll
then
see.
The real nerds can tune into that.
I'm kind of attached to it though.
I do like it.
It's a good time. Anyways,
All right, yeah.
So the reason I find that so great is because I think to professionals, right? I think to professional athletes. When you watch someone do a professional cliff dive,
Right.
do you immediately look at that and go, fuck yeah, I'm going to go do that. I can do that.
Absolutely.
I can go do a quadruple backflip McTwisty into shallow waters.
Nope.
Do you watch a chainsaw juggler juggle live rotating chainsaws and go, yeah, I can do that? Do you watch a guy swallow a flaming sword and go, I could probably do that?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so
I did see something really interesting on the internet the other day, so hold that thought. And it's the same exact, it goes along the same lines.
I'm intrigued.
And I don't know if it was real or if it was fake. If it was real, it was the most amazing shit I have ever seen in my entire life. And most of the comments said, can verify this was real. Some people were like, fuck this, fake. Somebody was like, nope, I was there. I watched this happen.
Oh, shit. What is
So it was a guy that, those big inflatable things that they put
Oh, where he gets hit with the car?
No.
Oh.
No, a different one. He jumps on one of those inflatable things that launches you, 100 feet in the
Oh,
air.
like they have in lakes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where one person
Yeah.
will jump on one end
And launch.
and launch. Well, it was something very similar to this where I don't know if it launched him or if he jumped on it and it launched him off or if somebody else jumped on and launched. It doesn't matter. Something launched this guy into the air. It was one of those big inflatable things.
Yeah, I got
him in the air.
launched.
There is a helicopter, but it's a military helicopter it's one of those very large, flat I guess it would be for comms up on top above the propellers.
Oh,
I don't know exactly what it is.
It's the dish.
It's the dish.
Yeah.
It's a dish
I know what you're
above the
talking
propellers.
Yeah.
This dude launched over the propellers
And on top
did a
of the
full
dish.
flip and landed on the dish. And then when he hit the dish with his feet, he stumbles forward like 3-4 steps and then stops. I mean, the blades are turning on this thing. And you're just like, oh, fuck. Because he takes a few steps and you can tell he just barely hits the edge. He almost loses his balance and then he steps back and then goes, bah! And like you could hear people like cheering in the background and shit. So the whole thing it's completely unverified, but we will try to find the clip for you. I will try to put it in here and you can maybe do your own research and tell me if it's fucking
That
fake or
sounds
not.
fucking wild.
But one way or the other, and you can tell there's like a Coast Guard or a medic helicopter like right next to it too. So it's like it's flying, not like it would do anything if
Yeah.
it fell into the blades of a helicopter.
Yeah, you're going to get shocked.
Yeah, but it's pretty fucking incredible. It is like the most impressive performance of acrobatics,
Daredevil.
of daredevilish shit that I've ever laid my eyes on, to the tune of if you did not do that properly, you're just fucking dead,
Yeah.
period. Which is with a lot of things, like
Right.
swallowing swords that are on fire, so go ahead with that.
Yes.
Are you going to try that?
Swallowing swords?
That's the premise that you're trying to say.
Right. Like, you see it. You're now going to do it? Did you watch Evil Knievel and you're like, fucking A, I can do that?
Yeah, right.
No, who does that? Think long and hard about the type of people that do it after watching it on television. Would you classify them as intelligent? Anyways, so let's talk about this because they're very concerned about firearms and firearm safety.
Oh, look what you have.
Oh, look at this. This is the thing. So, firearm safety. Let's talk about it. What is a firearm, Jake Dines? It's a tool. Correct.
Tool indeed.
It's a tool indeed.
How's that class? So many.
There's so I know that's why.
How many answers?
I just left you.
Thanks for leading me into that. I was like, yeah.
It is an extension. It is a weapon. It is a tool. It is a self-defense tool. But the coolest thing about a properly made firearm is they don't go off unless you want them to go off.
Right.
Right. That's the cool part, and especially an unloaded firearm.
Right. Or if possibly a firearm that, is bolt lock, like yours is
Correct.
currently. Technically is on fire, but hey, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, it's on fire. I'm about to swallow this AR-15.
But the bolt is locked. There's no ammunition inside of it.
Correct.
So it's about as safe as it can be.
Empty. Yeah. We'll just go ahead. We're people at home.
There's nothing hiding in there.
Bolt locked.
Okay.
So they're very concerned with my level of comfortability, which I can understand if you're uncomfortable with a firearm. I have one thing to add before I show.
What you do.
Yes.
Okay.
Train. If you
That's why it's good to watch this podcast, like on YouTube, because, it's cool. Like whatever platform you're on is fine. But when you're watching on YouTube, you can actually kick over to the video. You can, look at the video to actually see what you're doing.
Exactly. If you are uncomfortable with your firearm, now I'm not talking about complacency. I'm talking about being comfortable with your firearm. These have severe capabilities. These, in the right hands, these are very, very capable weapons, just like a sword, right? If somebody is capable with a sword, you know it. We've all seen those, well, you probably have if you're like me, the dudes cutting the Tatari mats with samurai swords,
right?
Just slicing through it. They're incredibly proficient. Now, in someone who's untrained, probably not, and it's probably dangerous.
Right.
But these are tools in the hands, and when they're held by, I don't want to say a master because I don't want to fucking inflate my ego, but I shoot enough to be competent with this rifle,
right?
And most firearms. You should be as well if you're going to have one. That's what I'm going to say on that. So, let's go over this trick, because apparently most of the internet RSOs believe I pointed this directly at my chest. So let's go here. Bang. Gun goes to bolt lock. I flip gun. Here, I'll face directly at the camera. Please tell me when the barrel points at my chest.
Right. And then you stick a mag in from the top.
And then, boop.
Not to mention... Right. So not to mention... All right. So this whole thing happens. You've fired a round. You've discharged the firearm.
Correct.
Right?
After the magazine that I have loaded
That you
and
have
checked.
loaded and checked.
No one else. Me.
Has 1 round in it.
1 round.
So if it's got 1 round in it and you've pulled the trigger and sent that round,
Bang.
you've now have,
I felt the recoil.
right?
I heard the ping.
So 1 round minus 1 round equals how many rounds?
I was homeschooled, so that's going to be tough for me. 0.
I'll give you 0.
Okay.
Okay, and if you have 0 ammunition in the firearm, and you know that because you have been the one loading you were the one loading the magazine.
Correct.
Then there would be nothing in the magazine.
Correct.
For you to shoot yourself with, even if it was pointed at your fucking chest.
Correct.
Okay, now listen, we're on the internet. You are a creator. You're trying to attempt to at least entertain those who we are fortunate we are fortunate enough to have subscribed to the channel. Correct. And said, hey, show me some more cool shit.
Yeah.
So what is the issue if we're in a safe environment and you have medical equipment with you in the event that something bad happens, and you've very thoroughly checked your magazine and you're not pointing it at yourself
or anyone else
throughout the entire process? What the fuck is the problem? I think they need to waste more time on other platforms and maybe dig into those videos where people are taking a loaded firearm, pointing them at their dick,
and shooting their dick
and
off.
then squeezing the trigger as close as they possibly can before that wall breaks, right? Before the trigger actually breaks the shot. So, because that's the problem. It's like you get dudes on the internet right now that will load up a mag, they'll chamber it, they'll show you that it's chambered. And the fun new game to play apparently is I'm going to point it at my dick, I'll load it around, and I'm going to squeeze the trigger until it hits the wall, and then beyond the wall, I'm going to see just how much leverage I can get out of that trigger before it breaks.
I will never do that.
Never.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
Ever. Do that.
Because that is unsafe. That is unsafe.
Dude. So, don't waste your time on us, man. Hop in those comments and,
when I do something legitimately ststupid,
yeah,
there you go.
And if this was just 1 or 2 guys, cool, you're a fucking troll. But it seems to be a theme amongst many, many people that this is a thing to do. So, I don't know. Yeah, get on all the sword swallowing sites and
tell them that they're dangerous and influencing people to hurt themselves.
Yeah, get the guys doing double backflips on, just why don't you go on Travis Pastrana's channel and say, hey, Stop riding your dirt bike like that, because someone's going to try a double backflip and break their fucking neck, because people have actually died doing that legitimately. And you can and will die if you try that and you're not experienced.
Correct. And the only reason they have do not try this at home on the show is because they have to legally.
Okay.
I don't legally have to.
Well, why do you think they legally have to take that down another level? Why do you think they legally have to say don't try this at home? Because at some point in time, somebody's tried that at home.
Right.
Because if nobody has ever done that, because if humans were just smart creatures and we were like, hey, I probably shouldn't attempt this, what you would have is a society that has never been sued over something that somebody else tried based on something that you did.
Yeah.
And if that were the case, you would never have to disclaim anything. You would just simply do it and go about your life. But because there was a time, and there is still times, where somebody does some shit and they sue the fuck out of the person that did it, or the family comes back and they said, he wouldn't have done this if you didn't do that.
The fact that any of those suits ever made it past, just preliminary hearing is baffling to me. It's absolutely baffling.
Yeah, we're in a very litigious society, man. You can sue anybody for anything nowadays. And half the time, most people don't want to fucking deal with going to court and putting up all the money to fucking pay the attorneys. And so what do? They just fucking settle. Because it's like, look, I don't want to go through this fucking process. It's going to cost way more money than I want. So here you go. Here's a bunch of fucking money.
Listen, if any of you guys hurt yourselves trying stuff that I do and you try and take me to court, I'm going to call you some names in court, and it's going to get televised. And
you don't need to worry about that, because listen, we have been sued multiple times from just different companies that are like, you can't use a variation of this particular name because it's so ridiculous to even say, but it's like, you're using the word micro, for example.
Right.
We talked about that in the last podcast. If you don't know, just go check it out. But or the podcast before last, I fucking don't remember. But we own the word micro. Now you don't. I'm gonna use it anyway, right? Yeah. So if that shit happens, dude, most often, I do not settle out. Most often, I will just take it until they give up. I will fight, put the fucking tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars down out of sheer fucking principle, and then they eventually just go away. Yeah, it costs me a lot of money in the process, but you're going to spend way more because the plaintiff always spends more than a defendant.
Yeah.
Because you have to come, like every time I submit a response, they got to come back with more proof. Otherwise, the judge won't allow it to proceed.
And I'll still call you names.
Yeah. So, yeah, unless you plan on spending a whole metric fuck ton of money, I will put the whole fucking weight. If it's some unbased claim, I don't give a shit. I don't put up with that shit.
Here, maybe I should just say this right now. Don't ever try what I do.
Yeah, just don't.
Just don't. How about that? Cool. That's on you.
That's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this, because this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Lots of craziness.
Lots of craziness.
So, I don't know if you know about this. Do you know about the Texas National Guard right now?
Talk to me.
So, Texas Border Patrol, obviously not doing their job, letting tons of immigrants cross the border illegally, mind you.
Yep.
Not coming through proper channels and doing their due diligence. Well, Governor Greg Abbott, I think it is,
Yep.
of Tejas, said, fuck that noise, called in the Texas National Guard, kicked the fucking Border Patrol out, put up razor wire. They're not allowing the Border Patrol back in. Federal government has said, hey, you have X amount of time to clear the fuck out. And they said, go fuck yourself, we're handling this problem. So they currently have, I forget the name of the park, I'll pop it up, but Eagle Pass. And they have completely taken over. Fucking gangster Texas, way to go.
State versus feds, huh?
State versus feds. We've seen this go somewhere before.
Yeah, I don't know. Circa Civil War-ish? Just saying.
Seen this in history somewhere before.
I'm saying.
Well, you guys have also, speaking to any federales watching, you guys have also fucked with Texas before and lost. When are you gonna learn your lesson, old man?
Yeah.
But the reason I bring this up is because two senators, representatives, whatever, are introducing a bill.
Which is?
They're introducing a militia bill trying to ban all paramilitary organizations, mind you, from here, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, this shit gets me hot.
This is...
The reason why it gets me hot is because it is within our right to have well-regulated militias. I mean, pretty sure that is in the Second Amendment, that we can have a well-regulated, meaning in that time, a well-organized militia, as necessary to the security of a free state.
Correct.
Right? So that is the premise of our constitutional rights, and now they are going to attempt... But what's funny is, like, they've already defined what a militia is, and we certainly know that the FBI has defined what a terrorist is.
Violent extremist.
Violent extremist. Okay, here we go. Violent extremist is when two or more people, right, train with munitions or firearms.
They've literally said that if you distrust the government, you could be a violent extremist.
It's in there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'll pop it up on screen if I can find it.
So if we poll anybody, or if anybody poll anybody, let's say the pollsters go out and they're like, hey, do you trust your government? Which they do. And these individuals said, no, you're a violent extremist.
Possibly be labeled as a violent extremist by the FBI. Or is it the DOH? DOHS. Gosh. Anyways, the unauthorized private paramilitary activity. I don't think they have a name for this bill yet. But it shall be unlawful to knowingly publicly patrol, drill, or engage in techniques capable of causing bodily injury or death. To interfere, interrupt, or to attempt to interfere with or interrupt government operations or government proceedings. To assume functions of law enforcement officer, peace officer, or public official, whether or not acting under color of law, and thereby assert authority or purport to assess authority over another person without consent of that person, or train or engage in any activity described in paragraphs 1 through 4. So, let me get you the definition of paramilitary for those who don't know.
Paragliding military?
Yes.
If you're a paraglider in the military.
Paramilitary, an unofficial force organized similarly to a military force. What does that sound like to you, Dick Dance?
Militia.
That sounds like a militia to me. So these guys are coming up with this bill to essentially ban militias. Why would the government be doing that now? That's a very curious time.
Right. Well, as you've said before, and we've said many times, if they are trying to disarm you, then they are trying to kill you.
Correct. And so what's crazy about this is, regardless of what you want to say or what you think it relates to, the government makes very blanket, overarching statements with their laws because they're disgusting lawyers, and they try and make it as blanket statement as possible. The thing here is they specifically put a comma, very much so how like there's a comma between militia and the right of the people.
Right.
So they put this comma in there saying that if you train techniques that could cause bodily harm or death, if you go out shooting,
That's
training a technique that could cause extreme bodily harm or
right.
death. Thus, you could be convicted of private paramilitary activity. I'm pretty sure that means federal prison.
Yeah, strictly by going out and exercising your Second Amendment, you are thereby violating it, which gives them a roundabout way to essentially repeal the Second Amendment without formally repealing the Second Amendment. Because if you just change the definition of something, then you've redefined what you are allowed to do and not do, if
Yes.
that makes sense, right? So if you say, listen, you can have guns and you can have the Second Amendment and you can be a militia, but if we define militia as this very specific thing, then the second you do it, you're in violation of the law,
Correct.
and the Second Amendment no longer even applies.
Right.
So there are workarounds to fuck with it without completely taking it away.
Absolutely.
I think that's the direction that it's going right now.
It's absolutely the direction it's going. I don't see any other real explanation for it.
No.
No.
So it doesn't mean that it should stop you from doing anything that you're currently doing. Obviously, and I don't say this just as a disclaimer. I genuinely say this because I mean this. I mean this from the bottom of my heart and for the reason why we do what we do. We are here to take a defensive posture, not an offensive posture. This is a defensive posture of preserving our freedoms and preserving the rights as outlined in the Constitution. And when these rights are taken away or they are compromised by an enemy, foreign or domestic, we are here to defend those, not any other reason other than that.
Correct.
This is not like, oh, we're gonna, give people the equipment and give people the capabilities and give people the training to go overthrow a government. That is not what's happening right now. What's happening is we are here, we are happy, we are free to an extent. These things get pulled away, boiled frog, slower and slower and slower, get stripped one by one. But so long as we have the things in general that give us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we're good. The second that we're not good, we've got ways to claw them back.
Correct.
Can't claw them back without the same armaments that people that are trying to take them away from you have.
Correct.
Which is why they outlined the Second Amendment the way that they did.
Right.
That's why they didn't specify more or less than said entity that's trying to take them away, right? That's why they didn't specify foreign enemies. That's why they didn't. There was many things inside of that they didn't.
These were learned people that wrote the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
They were smart. They were intelligent. They had traveled, and they were learned. They were lawyers.
Yeah.
They were lawyers. Think about that.
Most of them were.
And they wrote it very, very strategically.
Yeah. In fact, wrote it, rewrote it.
Yes.
You look at like how many drafts came through on the Second Amendment. It was like, it was written this way, and they rewrote it this way, rewrote it this way. And before it was ratified in 1791, this seems good enough.
You should give the little story that you told me about your daughter the other day.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah. So my daughter asked me, I was wearing this shirt, this sweater that I'm wearing right now, and it says 2A Pro. And she said, what is 2A? She said, what does 2A stand for? And I said, 2A stands for the Second Amendment. And then she goes, oh yeah, that's the right, because I've talked to her about it before. And she goes, that gives us the rights to have guns, right? And I said, yes, that does give us the right to have guns. And then she said, So she just kind of starts drawing her own conclusion.
She starts drawing her own conclusions. And I think the reason why I was so impressed is because I really didn't have to explain anything to her. She said, so it's important to have them because some people might try to take away something that we have. And I said, absolutely, 100%. That's exactly why we have the Second Amendment. And she said, would those people be like, are they just bad guys, or can they also be, can they also be good guys? And it was cool to have the conversation because it was like, well, bad guys can be disguised as good guys.
Right.
And sometimes you have people with, seemingly good intentions on the forefront of something. And this is how I explained it to her. I said, sometimes bad guys can look like they're good guys, right? They can appear as good guys. They can appear that they're in your best interest, but strategically, what they're trying to do is look out for their self-interest. Mm-hmm. But the only thing that matters is our ability to be free and happy and live a good life and have the family that we have without anybody infringing upon those rights, And she said, I forget the totality of the conversation, but it was very meaningful to have her ask questions about it. And she goes, that makes sense because, she kind of drew her own conclusion. And she said, so could that even be the government? And I said, that could be, Mm-hmm. She goes, by the time we got done talking about, I'm not going to sit there and indoctrinate her and, give her any sort of dogma, but she came to all of her own conclusions as a 10-year-old, just being inquisitive. She goes, okay, it makes more sense now. Like why we would need all those things. And I've talked about it before with her. She just kind of gets it. You know what I mean? And I wish more parents would have that conversation with their kids that, listen, like, here's what our Constitution looks like. Here's what you're allowed to do and not do. She said the First Amendment's about speech, right? About being able to say what we can. That this was the cool part. This is the conclusion that she came to as a 10-year-old on her own. She said the First Amendment's about speech, right? You could say whatever you want. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And she said, so the Second Amendment would basically protect that right. And I was like, man, you get it.
You just get it.
10 years old.
Yeah.
I had never said that to her before. Nobody that she's talked to in our, familial structure has ever said that to her before. And she was like, so if somebody tried to take that away, then you use the Second Amendment to protect it. And I was like, that's exactly
Nailed
right.
it.
Nailed it. And I was like, man, like this is exactly what I wish we had this as part of our education system. If not, I wish more parents would just, because it's not the responsibility of the educational system to inform our children of why we have what we have, right? Mm-hmm. Why we have. I think it is the responsibility of our educational system not to do a lot of things. That's for sure. Not to cover certain things in school. Not to say, hey, no, you don't have to stand up when the fucking Pledge of Allegiance. All these things that happen, right? It is not the job of the school to remove God from the Pledge of Allegiance and all the other crazy shit that they're doing. But it is the job of the school to allow them access to the information. The information is there. Mm-hmm. They need to be exposed to it. They need to give them facts because history is exactly that. It's facts.
Right.
There's no fucking spin on it.
No.
There's no spin on history. Mm-mm. There's no rewriting it. What happened. We have to be fucking honest with ourselves about it. And the way that our kids learn about slavery and the shit that went down and why it went down and how it went down, it is so twisted and manipulated to make it seem a certain way, and I'm not going to get into the details of it right now because we don't have time. It's disgusting. Mm-hmm. So it is our responsibility as parents to go home and say, this is the truth,
right?
Regardless of what they tell you. Because who's your kids going to trust? Their loving mother and father who's taking care of them, or the school system that you put them in. Some people don't have the opportunity to homeschool their kids.
Right.
And so I'm not going to sit here and say, you need to homeschool your kids. There's no other way. Some people don't have the resources to do that.
Right.
But we need education, as much as we have a border crisis and as much as we've got a crisis and a war on the Second Amendment, we've got an education crisis like a motherfucker. These people are indoctrinating our children to think a certain way and believe a certain way, keeping very important things like why we have things embedded in our Constitution out of their curriculum so that they don't reference that when they need to.
Dude.
You know, it's insane to me. So it is our job as parents to pick up the slack and to catch all of the things into a net that are being missed in the education system and put those into their curriculum at home.
Right.
And that's all we got, man. I'm telling everybody out there, if you got kids, all we've got, or you don't have kids, but you're going to have kids, the only thing we've got is the next generation.
Absolutely.
How do we treat them? How do we give them facts about history, who we are, where we've been, and where we need to go to be able to preserve the current freedoms that we enjoy?
And how do we keep them looking at Old Glory here?
How do we keep them looking at
and
that
not-
flag
and not
thinking, hey, this represents what that flag represents is more than. I mean, we could make
I could go on for hours.
6-hour podcast
Yeah.
about what the flag represents and what it is supposed to represent. But unfortunately, here is the fact that we live in right now. The world that we live in is I watched this thing with you.
Yep.
And I don't know. I think they were down. They must have been in California.
It looks like it's kind of like
Huntington Beach or
It looks
something?
like Huntington, kind of that
Like Venice Beach.
Venice Beach area.
Like Venice
It
Beach.
kind of looks like that.
Southern California, if you guys don't know where that is. And there's a guy that's going around and just interviewing the younger generation. He's interviewing Gen Zs. What does this flag make you feel? What type of feelings does this flag elicit when you see it? I think his exact question were, if you saw somebody wearing an American flag on a T-shirt, what would your first knee-jerk reaction be, and what would you think? What would your opinion be about the person that was wearing that shirt? The answer was overwhelmingly very upsetting.
It was dark.
It was super fucking dark, and I sent it to you.
We'll play it here for you.
I'm gonna play it here for you, and you and I are gonna watch it real quick just so we get a little
Recap.
taste of what it is.
If you see someone wearing an American flag on their shirt, do you form any kind of opinion about them or no?
Yes, 100%. Yes, definitely.
And what is that?
Republican? Yeah, probably like a Trumpy. Because they'd be the only ones like brave enough to wear it in public.
Brave enough to wear the American flag in
Yeah,
public?
like proud to wear it. Yeah.
Wearing an American flag on their shirt, do you racist?
Yes. Yeah, it's very racist. Patriotic for me.
I think it's like more of like a lot of people like correlate it with like racism and stuff like that. So
It could be someone that's super patriotic, and usually I think that it's a little too much.
Too much?
Too much.
I mean, like America, like I would just walk away. We come from Kansas, so we are around that a lot.
So you guys are around a lot of American flags?
Yeah.
If you see someone wearing an American
Okay, so there's the first problem, right? When you see somebody with an American flag on their shirt, what does that make you think they are? Okay, there's good and bad here, because she says Republican. Okay, so if somebody is representing an American flag, that means they're a Republican. Well, I know I'm on the right side of the fucking line.
Listen,
Cool, right? So that means
if Democrats are
what's the
afraid to wear the
alternative?
American flag, it's kind of
Okay, so that's not a bad thing. At first, when I first heard that, I was like, that's not that bad. Cool. They think Republican. I would love to be associated with the American flag because I'm very proud of it. But then it gets darker.
it's so dark.
It gets so dark.
So dark.
And even in that one statement, there's something incredibly wrong with that.
Right.
Because that means that half the country wearing
Or at least they associate half the right.
that means they would assume that if somebody was wearing an American flag, they weren't a Democrat. And that's a fucking problem.
That's a problem.
Because that means that they assume that the other side of that aisle doesn't support the United States.
Correct.
And the Constitution and the agenda for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So it gets worse. Okay, but that says something too. She says, like, proud to wear it. Okay, now, this is not a dig at the younger generation. What's happening here is terrifying to me because that means that we've got a generation of children. Now, I'm not going to take a few people that were interviewed, especially in the state of California, as everybody thinks this way. But what we're dealing with right now is somebody just said, yeah, well, they would be proud to wear it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically an assumption that they wouldn't be proud to wear it, right? And that's fundamentally a problem.
That's a problem.
And I don't agree with that. I'm proud of living in the United States. I'm proud of being an American. But our generation that's coming up right now in this age bracket is not proud to be an American.
No.
That they'd be proud to wear that. That what she's saying is I wouldn't be proud to wear that because of what America represents right now. And I'm not gonna lie, man. There's a piece of me that says I don't fucking blame you.
Right.
Because of the shit going on right now. Right? And I don't think she's, she probably just stumbled out of a fucking boba tea shop and has no fucking idea what she's talking about.
Listen, don't you fucking knock boba tea, okay? But I can attest to that though.
I feel bad for her that she's living in a country that she's not fucking proud to be a part of.
Right. Two things to that.
Okay.
One, if she's of age, you can get the fuck out. Two.
That's true too. That's true too.
When I was younger and I had disdain for the federal government, I still do. But when I was younger and more dumb, I associated Old Glory with the federal government, which those are two completely separate things.
Exactly.
I would see the flag and I'm like, fuck the government.
Right.
Except now I'm like, that doesn't associate with the government at all. That associates with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's what that associates with. That's what it should be associated with.
In the Constitution.
That's what it should be associated with. It should be associated with the men and women, because there were women in the war, believe it or not, that lost their lives during the Revolutionary War that gave us the opportunity to break ties with the crown and establish our own government so that we did not have to live under tyranny any longer. And that's what that, legitimately down to the core, that represents people fucking lost their lives, made huge sacrifices, not knowing if their entire population would be decimated by doing exactly that so that we could preserve a future that we have today.
What is it? The 3% of colonists? I can't remember if it was, I'll pop the percentage.
Oh yeah,
it was only like 3% of the colonists that fought.
Right, very small percentage.
They stood up and they were like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
I'm fighting for it.
That's right.
Absolutely savage.
Dig a little deeper in here real quick. So it's somebody that's super patriotic and racist.
Oh God.
I mean, this is coming out of multiple, there are multiple
characters
NPCs. In this, NPCs in this that are saying, if I saw somebody with an American flag, I would assume that they're racist.
Assume they're racist, assume they're super patriotic, Republican.
Right. So this goes back to what they're teaching in school. So just to touch on that real quick, I remember, I can remember back to when we were learning about this stuff, and I was like, man, like everybody, like all these guys that founded the country, they're racist. They must be because they all had slaves because this is the shit that they're teaching in school. It's like, did you know that the founding fathers had slaves? Did you know that they were like perpetuating slavery throughout this process? I think we can all get on the same page and agree that slavery is not a fucking thing. I also don't think, I mean, correct me if I am incredibly wrong and there's some little chunk of history that I am completely missing, that owning slaves were baked into the Constitution.
No.
Didn't think so.
No,
so
not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, because I think deep down inside, they were like, this probably isn't like the right thing to be doing right now. And if they did, if they had a full heart on for fucking slavery, they probably would have just put that in there and said, you know what? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, except for slaves.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Unless you own humans, then you can go ahead and do this.
Right.
So because that's not in there, I can kind of, again, I don't think that any of these people are thinking deep enough to say, well, the country was founded when we had slaves, and so when I see that there's slavery, the thoughts aren't going that deep. What's happening is the media is painting Republicans as racist. And when Republicans wear American flags and they've been deemed racist by liberal media, and that's all these kids get to see these little fucking sound bites of liberal media on their fucking Twitter feed.
I would just like to issue a challenge.
Yeah.
To find me a country that hasn't had slavery.
Every country in some fashion was built on the back of slavery. And I'm not saying it's all right.
No.
But we also want to think about this thing too.
It's where we've come from.
It's
not okay.
Americans just didn't go, Sprout, I'm here, I'm an American, I'm this random white guy that just happened to be born inside the United States. No, we came from England, and England had
slaves.
Okay.
So did France.
So they built their entire infrastructure was built on slavery in England. And when we came here, guess how they expanded? Slavery. That's the way that they did their thing. And so slavery wasn't cut out of our regimen of the way that we did things until some time later. So what they were working on at this point was like, hey, let's break away from a tyrannical government. Let's lose a whole fucking bunch of lives in the process. Let's somehow get away from the crown. And nowhere along the way, because they had so much shit going on, I would assume, is like, hey, let's also stop the slavery thing right now. They were probably thinking, we need as many fucking resources as we possibly can get to be able to hold ourselves up against one of the biggest superpowers on the fucking planet.
Right.
Okay. Let's get that out of there. Again, not condoning fucking slavery.
I'm
just trying to get in the minds of the guys that these guys were built, raised, grown up, and surrounded. Anybody have an old like great grandmother who says some real racist shit, or a great grandfather who says some real racist shit?
I've seen those guys announcing on the NBA.
Okay. Yeah, I think we got that one.
Yeah.
And the owner of the Clippers. So you get these motherfuckers that's all they knew. They were told that's okay. These guys were raised that way.
Oh,
they come over
I got
here.
one.
What?
Biden.
Yeah, there it is.
There's one.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Maybe throw some clips in here
Yeah.
of like a few of the things that motherfucker said before he decided to run for president.
Who
huh?
remembers when Biden said he didn't want his kids growing up in an interracial jungle? I do.
Yeah, I do.
I remember that.
Who remember when Biden said that, hey, poor kids have the same opportunities that white kids have. So let's just understand that the things that used to be right, and I say that in quotations, like socially acceptable,
That's a
we
better
are
word.
far
That they
aw-
were accepted.
What's that?
That's a better phrasing for it.
They were
accepted.
just fucking accepted during that era of time.
Yes.
And what's happening is, what happened back then when people associate, the founding fathers with slavery, these guys came from England. England had slaves. They were still entrenched in cultures and values from a slave-driven economy.
Yes.
And they were still within the same generation of a slave-driven economy. And so we had to break that through the next generation and the next generation.
What would you classify as a generation?
A generation is one...
I get, but like a year span, would you
Oh, and
say?
in a year span, I would say a full generation is 40 years, 50 years.
Okay, 2 generations. It took less than 2 generations.
Two
to get
generations.
to get out of
Because-
slavery for America.
You know what I mean? Because really, you've got to look at like adult life and like for a full generation to kind of surpass. And if we take 50 years as and I'm sure there's some like scientific actual
Right.
generational block of time, but you kind of reach your adult life at like 18, 20 years old. Okay. You're an adult now. And then you kind of die around 65, 70, 80 years old, especially back then. So
we
a
still
full generation.
We still die around that age.
So probably a lot earlier
Yeah.
back then. I don't know. I don't have the fucking life statistics from back then. But if you call a generation 40 or 50 years old, then it took a couple generations for that to go away, because I think the abolishment of slavery was around 1861,
61, I believe.
Okay.
Which it was only like 1838 for Britain.
Yeah, they got there sooner than we did.
They got there. They got there a skosh sooner.
Go sooner than we
Yeah.
did. Okay.
France, 1791, I think.
Yeah.
Around the ratification.
Right. So, all right. And then obviously that's right around the same time the Civil War kicked off, because they were like, we are not doing slaves. And they were like, yeah, we are.
So yeah. Well, nah.
Okay. So here's a full circle here, because we're kind of rambling on this, or I'm rambling on this more importantly. What's happening here is they're not going deep down into history and historical references of why that flag represents slavery, because it absolutely doesn't. They're getting fed this information through media outlets.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's this path of information, and if then that along the way. If you're a Republican, then you've
racist.
probably got an American flag on your shirt. If you have an American flag on your shirt, then you must be a racist. And somewhere along the way, these points, these if-then points, were drawn to them by the media. And you get this, and I'll finish the video out. Patriotic. You really do love your country and its citizens.
Its core values.
And its core values and what the Constitution represents. And it's just too much. Just too much. Like, God forbid you're proud of where you live, of where you come from. And it's okay not not to accept status quo. It's okay to want to fix things and
Yeah.
say, hey, this is fucking broken, like slavery. Let's not do that shit
Let's not
anymore.
do it anymore.
Okay, so, but yeah, just too much patriotism. This is who we have fighting the next war. And when people say, it's not that big of a deal because, if there was, a civil war that was ever going to happen, the military is not going to go kill its own. Really? Maybe last generation's military wouldn't have done that, but these motherfuckers? You think any of these motherfuckers or any of those military age males that come across the border that become citizens, that get recruited into the military, aren't going to be like,
All right.
yeah,
Fuck it.
that's cool. Yeah, I'm actually from fucking Yemen. I'd be happy to go kill some
I
fucking
don't give a
Americans.
fuck because
Yeah.
I think patriotism
Thanks for
is
letting
fucked.
me in and giving me
Citizenship.
and giving me a rifle to which I can go do that very thing. Because that's what's going on the fucking border. These motherfuckers are going to come in, they're going to get citizenship, or to get citizenship, they will join the military because you don't have to be a citizen to go in the military.
Nope. That's
It's
actually how you can get
It
citizen.
is a path.
Yeah.
And once they've got enough of those motherfuckers that will say yes instead of no, guess what we've got on our hands? We've got a military who will, yes, very much so, murder the people that have dissenting opinion about what is and isn't along the lines of our Constitution. So let's see if there's anything else in here. Okay, so that's the end of the video. So I thought, okay, they must be in like California.
I think so, dude. I think they are.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But she said my whole family's from Kansas.
Yeah.
This girl who's saying these things is from Kansas,
Yeah.
which I would think would be a little more
Patriotic.
patriotic.
And
clearly, there's still this sentiment among that generation. I truly think it's a generational thing. I think it's more of a systemic thing. And frankly, it's sad. And going back full circle, and we got to end the podcast right now, unfortunately, because God, I'm just getting.
We're busy, guys.
I am just getting fucking started.
There will be so much more for you, I
we'll
promise.
run a fucking part 2 while we're at SHOT Show and we have a podcast with one of these guys. And
Yeah,
say, hey, we ended the podcast on this. You want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna have a lot of podcasts coming out of SHOT Show.
it's gonna be cool.
lot of casting
But I'm
couch.
gonna go back full circle because there's an action item at the end of the podcast, and it's if you have kids or if you have any opportunity to talk to them about the historical importance of our Constitution and the freedoms that we can enjoy now and why we are where we are because of the men who came before us. It would just be, I think that would really start changing the game because there's too much of the other thing happening, which is
Dude, it's so bad.
question everything. And question shit. Yeah, especially when it comes directly from the government. But it's this, hey, we don't need this anymore. We feel safe. What's the saying? Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men.
Mm-hmm. Weak men create hard times.
Weak men create hard times. And this is the generation of weak men creating hard times. And it is going to, I don't know when, but I don't know if, but I know if. It's when. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Something is going to pop, man. There's going to be some bubble that's going to burst. I wish it wouldn't happen. I'm just hoping we can get there before it takes any level of violence to get us there.
Yeah.
That's my cue. My wife's calling.
Yeah, no worries. I absolutely pray for absolutely zero violence on that end. But it's like, hey, enough strong men out there. I believe you're out there. I believe it. We can turn this shit around.
We can.
We can turn this shit around.
I know we can. Because anybody that's watching this podcast right now that's digesting information that is the truth, obviously we're not saying anything that's not fucking true. This is just absolute information. I also implore you to look at the other side, because for anybody to have any semblance of a conversation or debate, we really do have to, I hate to use the word empathize, but we have to at least understand why they think the way they think.
I would like to throw this out there because a lot of people, I was just talking with Mad Minute the other day on the phone. We were chatting back and forth, sexting and whatnot.
Sexting.
And we were talking about this, and he said something that really kind of clicked in my head. He was like, I don't want to just run off away into the woods. He's like, sure, that sounds great. He's like, but we can't abandon fucking society and let it go to hell.
No.
And I was like, that right there.
Yeah.
Because most
very
of us in this space, I would like to say, we do. We want to we go, don't want any of that shit. We're going to go off over here if you guys fucking fall apart.
Yep.
And I would almost implore you guys, you don't have to be violent about it. You don't have to be offensive about it, but fucking stand your ground.
Yep.
Right? Just like if somebody comes at you with this bullshit rhetoric, you can stand your ground. You don't have to turn the other cheek and go, no, listen, like, let's have a conversation about this because I think you're wrong.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't agree with that. And
I
if
don't
they
agree
hear
with
it
that.
enough times, you're never going to change anybody's opinion right out
No,
the gate.
just like you can never make anybody do anything unless A, they're a slave.
I've had my opinions about many things that with enough information, I have changed those opinions based on information.
Right.
And if you're just another layer compounding on top of the information that they're getting, they may start to see things
In a different light.
in a different light. And maybe they'll never be fully in agreement with us and they'll never truly change their behavior and their voting behavior even. But at least we won't end up killing each other one day.
Right. And that's the most important thing.
And that's the most important thing. And with that,
We bid thee
bid thee
a
a queef.